Hey there, welcome back to Pepper Geek. In today's video, we're making one of my favorite side dishes. It's so simple and delicious, blistered shishito peppers. Now, if you've never heard of shishitos, they are a Japanese heirloom pepper variety. The plants are small, but so incredibly prolific. This here is a harvest from 2 plants, and we've already had a harvest prior to this one, and the plants were loaded with more peppers after this harvest, so they just keep giving and giving. On top of that, you pick them when they're green, so the plant will continue to produce for you every time you harvest. So like I said, blistered shishitos are so easy to make. It makes for just the easiest side dish. It works with a number of dishes, no matter what you're eating. If you have some fresh shishitos, you can just add them onto the dish. So go ahead and grab yourself a knife and then put it back because you're not even gonna need a knife for this recipe. Okay, so to start, just clean off your shishitos, just rinse them in cool water and then pat them dry. And from there, they're ready to go into the pan. All you need is a pan that will fit as many shishitos as you're gonna be cooking. You want them to stay on one layer on the pan, so you don't want them sort of clumped on top of each other like I have them here. You want them in a single layer on the pan. I'll just be cooking a handful, so that's gonna fit beautifully in this 8-inch pan here. Start by turning on the heat to medium-high heat and get the pan nice and warmed up. Once it's warm, add just a tiny drizzle of olive oil. That's really all you need. Just enough to coat the outside of all the peppers. For maybe a dozen shishitos, you'll use 1/4 to 1/2 of a teaspoon of olive oil. A little bit goes a long way here, and you don't want to overdo it. You don't want them too oily. This is supposed to be sort of a fresh, light side dish. Now, once the pan is nice and hot and the oil has thinned out like this and it sort of runs around the pan, go ahead and add in your shishitos. So I'm gonna be using just a handful, just enough to fill up this pan. And you should hear them start to crackle a little bit. Leave them on the heat and then let them sit for a minute or 2 before you start agitating them. Now, under the high heat, in total, you should really only be frying them for between 5 and 8 minutes. If it takes longer, then the heat might not be as high as it needs to be. And if your heat is too high, you may end up burning the pods. So they may sort of jump around a little bit as they pop on the heat. That's a good thing. You want to hear some noises. And while these are beginning to cook, I want to say there are a few additions you can add to this recipe. This is as simple as it gets. It's literally just the pods and a sprinkle of salt afterwards. But you could add in some crushed garlic, some soy sauce after the fact, maybe a little bit of chopped onion, some honey, and a really good garnish for these is toasted sesame seeds. Additionally, you could use different types of oil for a different flavor profile. So I like olive oil, but you could use sesame oil. That would definitely go well with your blistered shishitos. Okay, so just shake the pan occasionally just to get things moving. And I like to give them a toss just to make sure the oil is covering the entire pods. You want that oil to sort of coat, just barely coat the outside of the peppers. And now we're starting to see what is known as blistering. It starts to sort of brown on the edge of the peppers. That's good, that's what you want to see. And by the time these are done cooking, it will have softened the entire peppers. Again, just make sure that the peppers are staying in a single layer. You don't want one hopping on top of all of the others and cooking unevenly. And you can see there that that little amount of oil was plenty to add that glistening look to all the peppers. If you need to, if one of the pods is being stubborn, you can use some tongs just to flip them over and make sure that all sides are getting blistered evenly. And they will start to break open like that one just did there. And all of this is what you want. That high heat sort of chars the outside of the peppers, bringing such amazing flavor to this dish. Now towards the tail end here, I like to keep it moving pretty frequently, just tossing them around. You don't want to get any blackening. You just want them to just be charred and avoid burning the peppers. After about 5 or 8 minutes, they should be done. These are finished in my book. Just nice, beautiful coloration. The pods have started to collapse and some of them break open. You can take them off the heat. Now at this point, I'll add just a pinch of salt. You can go as heavy as you want. I like them salty, and then just give them one more toss. And with the shishitos seasoned, it's time to plate them. Now, if you've never had blistered shishitos before, you may think this looks a little bit lackluster and that the deflated pods don't look very appetizing, but just wait until you try this. The flavor of these green peppers is so unique, and a sprinkle of salt is really all that you need, in my opinion. It really just accentuates the flavor of the peppers themselves. But if you wanted to, again, you can add as much as you want to this. You could use a different type of oil, like sesame oil, that would really complement this. You could add soy sauce at this point. Just a splash of soy sauce would work really well. Maybe a drizzle of honey, but I really like them plain. This is how I usually do it, and I'm gonna have one. So, cheers. So good. It just makes you wonder where all that flavor comes from. If you eat a fresh shishito, it's good, but it's really nothing like this. This just brings out so much more flavor. And since we didn't cut the peppers, you sort of just eat them like a little popsicle on the side. Makes for a fun, quirky side dish. So I hope you'll try this recipe. You can find shishitos pretty easily now, even if you haven't grown them yourself. They're really cheap and easy to find at grocery stores, but I really recommend growing them at home just because they're one of the easiest plants to care for and the most productive. If you have any things that you'd like to add to Blistered Shishitos, let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.